Hi, Jeremy the Tall Trainer here, and we're going to go over the basics of exercise. So there are 4 exercises that we're going to go through. I'm going to talk through them quite a bit though. So there's very simple exercises, but you get an idea of how complicated the whole thing is. And so we do this at the first day for new people coming into boot camp, and we do it as a reminder for people who have been in boot camp because it's so easy to slip on some of these things. A good exercise done poorly is a poor exercise. And so we're going to really talk through how to hold your body while you're exercising. This is something I want more people to know because this stuff has cost me injuries to my knee, my shoulder, and my back when I was not aware of this stuff. And so I'm going to start off with this squat. We call it pretend sits on this day. And what we're going to do is we take the feet fairly wide apart, and we're going to push the butt back, and we're going to sink down like we're almost sitting in the chair here. And then we come back up. Now, typically when people do this exercise, some things go wrong. And so we're going to kind of look at it from feet, knees, hips, shoulders, lower back, all that stuff. Okay, so starting off with the feet, there's a lot of times the feet will turn out a lot, or the ankles will tip in as they're doing that. And usually the knees collapse in too. When you do this, it loads up your knees a lot more. So you got a lot more knee pressure, you're grinding away, and it's not even the right angle on there. So you're wearing things down more than they need to. All right, so people used to say squats are bad for your knees, and squats aren't bad for your knees, but bad squats are bad for your knees. All right, so make sure we squeeze the knees out as we're doing those. The other part of that is if you're on your toes too much. So if I'm rocked onto my toes, I'm loading my knees a bit harder here. And so I need to kind of shift back on my heels. I've got to push my butt back. A lot of times we say, stick your butt out like you're trying to tear your pants. These are my fancy pants right here, so they're actually kind of stretchy, so no chance of me tearing these suckers. All right, so I push the butt back as I come down in there with the knees out. Now I've got things lined up pretty good. Now I've got pretty good posture going on. One other thing that we all watch out for is rounding in the shoulders here. So stick the chest out, keep the back straight. And typically what you'll find is every time you improve one of these areas, a lot of times the exercise gets harder. So it gets more difficult. So if I'm down in here, I might be able to hold this little collapsed in squat for a while, but when I shift in here, I can't hold it as long. Now the muscles are doing the work and not the joints. So when we shift into a better position, it makes it tougher on the muscles, which feels more tiring, but easier on the joints, which a lot of times you may not even feel until later on, you know, when you have some sort of problem that shows up. All right, so let me review that again. So weight on the heels, knees out away from each other, chest out, butt out, sinking back in here, nice alignment, and you push in through the heels to come up. All right, so coming down, get that position set, great posture, pushing in through the heels to come up. All right, and so a lot of times we do this actively, so people are practicing while I am talking through some of these points and as we're going there. So a lot of times when we get to, you know, this part of this, as we're doing our squats in class, we talk about the order of priorities. And so what's the most important thing? So for us, the most important thing is posture. Number one on that list is posture. Posture is the key on that, because if we don't have good posture, everything else is bad. You know, it ruins everything. All right, so as we try to work and build on our posture there, everything is enhanced. We get the work in the right places, so we get faster, quicker results, better results, but we also decrease risk. We decrease risk of injury, and for me, that's a high value. So getting great work is important to me, but also decreasing risk is important to me. I imagine it's important to you too. So posture is the number one priority. So after you know you're nailing posture, you can work on the second thing. All right, so only after you have posture, and really you have to keep reminding posture all the time. All right, so that's range of motion. Range of motion comes in next. So if I got great posture in here, I'm coming down, knees are out, back straight, I'm loading in there, but then as I go lower, I start to collapse and shift forward. I have sacrificed my posture for my range of motion. And this happens very often, very often. These are principles, as we go through these 4 exercises, these are principles that land in many other exercises. All right, so these 4 exercises lay the groundwork for every other exercise. So learning these principles, very important. So range of motion, so that goes with any arm movements, is maintaining posture. And we do want to maximize range of motion, because if I just do my squat right up in here, you go in most health clubs and there's somebody be doing some heavy squats, but they won't be getting very low. They'll be screaming and doing all sorts of stuff there, carrying on. But the real challenge of the squat is that deep part, that range of motion. A lot of times, this chair actually might be, limiting me a little bit so I can actually sink a little bit lower. We build our benches to the exact right height that kind of accommodates that really, really well when we're working on this. So posture number one, then range of motion. The third part is extra resistance. And you'll see this happen backwards a lot, is people will do the great gobs of weight and they sacrifice range of motion, so they don't go very far down, and they sacrifice posture. And so now they're exercising and you will see some strength improvements up until your injury. All right, and who cares how strong you are just before you hurt yourself? All right, so what we need to do is we need to build the kind of strength that allows us to function well in life, allows us to work out for the long term, and feel good. Feel good. It's not just about how much can you lift, it is do you feel good is a big factor there. So I got posture, I work on range of motion, and then I can work on extra resistance. I can grab an extra weight or something like that to make that action more challenging. All right. Sometimes we even consider extra resistance as extra time. So if I hang out down here for a while, it starts to get more and more and more tiring as I go. So that right there, I'll review again from the side here just so you can see it. So I'm watching out for the knees, so I push the butt back. I'm watching out for the shoulders, sticking the chest out, and I'm sinking down in here, getting that good range of motion. And I get that spot, and if you can't get to that spot, work on that spot, and then you squeeze back up. One thing I found is the reason why we really nail this stuff the way we do is if you go to physical therapy. Let's say you hurt that. I've gone to physical therapy for a couple things. So you go into physical therapy, and let's say you have a knee injury. They give you an hour worth of exercises to help strengthen and stabilize that knee, which is important. You need that. But let's say your body has a lot of areas that are not working very well. So you go, okay, my shoulder posture is bad. I got my knee, I got my back. A lot of people that come into our studio, have those issues, have multiple things, that are not ideal. And so, what are we going to give them? An hour for the knee, an hour for the shoulder, an hour for the back? There's no time for that. And so I was thinking, how can I get a good benefit, restore their bodies more without spending tons of time? And the key was good posture. Because if tight hips and weak hips cause my knees to collapse in, so is when I consciously squeeze them out and push my butt out, I'm consciously choosing to stretch in the hips more and to strengthen the area that's weak. So as I battle against the weakness and the tightness, as I'm actually improving that. So instead of doing a lot of different exercises, we only have to do a few exercises that have really good quality to them, and that begins to restore our bodies. So the assembly line effect, really comes into play a bit here too, and so it shows up very well in the squat. We call it the assembly line effect because basically what happens is if my hips shut off, they stop doing what they're supposed to do. So they're either too tight or too weak to allow me to use them to get down. So I'm coming down in here. I will either load the knees harder, so I'll rock on my toes and do a harsh bend in the knees, or I will bend my back to go out and pick up something. Because if we got to pick up stuff, we got to do things in real life. If I don't have it in my hips, I'm going to use it somewhere else. And so the idea behind that is our whole body is like an assembly line. If one part of our body starts taking a nap, another part of our body has to do its job plus the other part's job. All right, so my knees are now going to do the knees job, plus they're going to do the hips job. And that's how people get bad knees. And sometimes, my back has to do my lower back job and my hips job, and now my back has a problem. All right, so I do find that one of the critical areas is the hips. Is gaining strength and flexibility in the hips is a big deal. And if we can do that, we get a lot more benefits, especially knees, lower back. So if you experience any of those, make sure you're really addressing the hips there. Next exercise is field goal squeeze. The worst place for our shoulder to be is up and forward. Unfortunately, up and forward is where our shoulder blade is most of the time. We have desk work, we have drive time, we even have slouching on the couch. All right. And so, and now we got tech neck, right? We got holding on things and arching over there. And so that our shoulders are here a lot. Have you ever heard somebody, your mother say, your grandmother say, if you keep making that face, it's going to stick that way? But if you hold that for a while, I mean, you would have to hold it for weeks and weeks and months and years. But I think technically all the tissue could harden around there. Like that is possible. But certainly for our shoulder posture or the rest of our body, this happens. This happens. People do hold this position for hours and hours and hours on end on a daily basis, and you get stuck. You get stuck this way. And we need to try to roll those shoulders back and down. If our shoulder stays up and forward, there is not much support, in there. There's not much around, that shoulder blade. So we're up and forward, and it is all the larger muscles of the upper body have now been eliminated there. All right, the chest, the lats, they are no longer there. And so I'll see if I can patch in a picture here. I can say this is a picture with the muscles, and then here is a picture without the muscles, and you just see the stringiness around the shoulder there. So here's back with the muscles, here's without the muscles, and you see just these little stringy lines in there, the stringy lines of the arm there. And all it is, that means if you're doing exercise up and forward, it's just tendons that are holding you. Just tendons that are holding you. I mean, that's where rotator cuff issues happen. Bicep tendon issues are fairly common with some of the pressing exercises. So one of our chief exercises that we do with this, and we just call it the field goal squeeze. It's very basic, and you can do it anywhere, and you probably should do it lots and lots of times. All right. So what we do is we set our arms up. You can even reach up if you want to. Slide your shoulders down and squeeze back. So drop your shoulders away from your ears, stick your chest out, abs pull in. A lot of times we'll do this in a little kickstand step just so we don't arch back too much as we're doing it. It gives us some support as we're doing this. So squeezing down, squeezing back. So I'm doing the opposite. Instead of this up and forward, I'm squeezing down, squeezing back. Down is more important than back on this one. So an issue of priority on this one is down, because we're trying to see if we can get these muscles to stop flexing so hard. So many people are just always locked into this bracing mode, like they're ready for somebody to hit them at any moment. All right, relax, let some of that out. Some of that's stress related, some of that's just habit. All right, squeezing down, squeezing back. So as we do that, now we are working between the shoulder blades, and we are working down below into the armpit muscles there. The lats, are flexing and working in there. So now we're strengthening the other side of our body. So instead of all up and through the front, now we're working across the back. Ideally, you're not sticking your chin out as you do it, keeping that chin pulled back as you're doing that work, squeezing hard. And I usually recommend people hold it for like 10 seconds, release there, and do it again. Do at least 5 to 10 of those, when you are doing that exercise. It can really restore the posture, incredibly well in the body there. And so before we move on, I want to talk really quickly about the bad pain, acceptable pain during exercise. And so I feel like this is really, really important. Exercise is uncomfortable. It is. I admit that. It's not. I don't have like woohoo. I can't wait to exercise all the time. It's hard, but it's an investment that can pay off. But now, if you go too hard in certain ways, you're hurting yourself instead of actually improving yourself. And so I want to make a differentiation between good challenge and pain there. And so we have acceptable pain is a gradual warming or burning type sensation, so it slowly builds in. So if we use the example of the squat there, the longer I hold here, the more I'm getting that good position. I'm going, oh, it's burning all through here. You go, it's good, burning through there, good deal. Working the muscles. All right, now, it's a large area away from the joints, so right in there, ooh, big area. If I'm holding right here, not so good. The big area, burning is gone as soon as you stop, or pretty quickly. So as soon as I come up, oh boy, that feels so much better. So that's the typical challenge of exercise, the hard work of exercise. And muscle soreness, if it's less than 3 days, you're good. If it starts going longer than that, you may have hurt something. And if it's both sides, if I go, oh, both legs, and the next day I'm like, oh, both are sore, that's typical. If it's one side, be careful. That's a warning sign. So bad pain is sharp shooting, stabbing, sudden onset, the grinding, too much clicking, popping we want to watch out for. Specific area, it is small, it is by the joints. more. So especially if joint pain or oh here, oh right there, it hurts. The more specific it is, the worse. So do watch out for that. And it still hurts when you're done. So you get done, you get done doing exercise, you come up, you go, oh, that knee right there. We want to watch out for that. Maybe you have bad posture and you need to fix that, but maybe that you need to change exercise. Maybe that's not the ideal exercise for you. All right, so that is a helpful bit to know about on the pain side of things. Making sure, because I made the mistake many times going too far when I shouldn't have. And so I want to make sure you guys understand maybe from my mistakes what to watch out for. So I think we hit that pretty good. What I want to do is I want to get into the push-up now. So we're going to work on the push-up position there. And so there are 4 typical mistakes that people make when they do push-ups. All right, so I'm going to come down here, and we're gonna do right on the floor. So usually we lay some mats down, and I tell people hands wider than the mat. The reason why is if the hands are close together, people tend to scrunch right in here as they do the push-up. So you want your hands wide enough so you have a chance to open up that posture. We want to try to get towards that field goal squeeze with the hands forward. All right, so right into that position is the ideal position for the body. All right, up in here, no good. So the 4 biggest mistakes on these. So I'll just show you a quick push-up. I'll show you a good push-up first here. All right, so you're coming down and pressing back up. Right in here, nice, smooth, whole body moving together. Now, let me show you what the mistakes are. All right, so one mistake is head goes between the hands. So people go down in here and they're right in there. Now, if I look at this position, what's wrong with it? This is wrong with it. My shoulders are popped up as I'm doing that. All right, so I'm out of that good position. I'm not in that down and back position. So again, these principles, they show up in so many exercises. Once you can nail the idea, it's complicated. You're gonna go, okay, here, address this, address that. But at least it's the same throughout all the exercises. There's very few times I'm like, scrunch hard and throw your chin forward and really crank up the back of your neck. It doesn't happen. I don't think I've ever said that, less in joke. I was just joking about it. All right, another problem that happens in push-ups, elbows stick out. So you're down in here, instead of here, people pop forward here. The elbows pop this direction. And one thing it does is you can see what it does to the wrist. As I pop forward there, it bends the wrist more. That's not so good, but also if I look at this, if I pop it right here, so I come in this spot and go, if my elbows pop, my shoulders come wrapping around. Now I'm getting that issue of rotator cuff stuff again. All right, so rolling back and down is important. So watch out for the elbows. They're going to be about a 45-degree angle, so your elbows aren't directly out to the side. They're not pegged into the side, because that usually gets a little crunchiness right in the bicep tendon there. Now they're about 45-degree angle away from the body, right in there, and that's about the width that you're going to go for with the hands. And that's why we use those mats. They're about that wide, and that makes it a pretty good spot for them. All right. Another problem is hips too high or too low. So as they come into here, they pop the hips up here, or they drop down too much here. And for that is more of an issue for lower back. And also it sets up the body in a different position there. Of the two, I guess I'd rather you have your hips too low, but make sure your abs are engaged. I'd rather hips too low. But ideally, I want your whole body moving together, towards the floor, and not like hips first in there. All right. So bracing, controlling as you do that. And then the fourth big mistake is face reaches to the floor. So here, maybe everything else is pretty nice, but they do this. Boom. Face goes right to the floor. A lot of times it's really hard to do that. You got to consciously pull back, tuck the chin in, and then do the rep from there. You'll notice I'm demonstrating most of them from the knees, because most people should be on the knees when they're learning these things. And if they can do really awesome quality and a good chunk of reps from the knees, then you can go to toes. So elevated surface, I'll show you that a little bit. If I go over here, so if they're too hard for your knees, so you go, your first one, you're all bracing and you're struggling, you can't push back up. My mom was there when she first started working out. From her knees, she couldn't even do really one push-up. And now, she can do like 20 plus push-ups or more, from her toes. And so it takes practice. You may decide that you're not that kind of person. That's a lie. That's a lie. You can achieve a lot of great stuff. It takes time, though. Most people don't have the patience to stick with it long enough to actually see that happen for them. But it could. It could happen for you. My mom had a bad neck. You know, a lot of issues there. She was scared to even try working out, but she started working out a little bit at a time, and now, you know, incredible ability levels, great strength, and she can do things. It's nice. All right. So hands out wide on the bar, or the countertop, or the stairs, shoulders away from the ears, and are drifting down right in here. We want that countertop, that edge of the stair, to be coming kind of towards the lower ribs as you're doing that, because that's where the hands are set up for that. So that's a good position there, and that's if you're doing a chest press, you're laying on your back and you're pushing a bar up, that's the place we want to hit for that as well. So that's that head going out in front of the hands as we're doing it. So I'm drifting here, head out in front of the hands, pushing back up, right in there. Now a lot of times when we do these, I make people do enough so they get really burning tired, but for this it's mostly educational here, but you know, it can be a great workout. So if you want to follow along with this, it'd probably be not a bad idea to test out a couple of these things while I'm talking through it. All right, so you know, that's a good hit on the push-ups there. I want to talk a little bit about the upper cross syndrome for a second here, and you know, this is that issue, that slouching issue, and a lot of people, when they're standing, it's maybe not too bad. As soon as they get into a push-up, it gets awful. Or as soon as they get into other positions, as soon as the effort gets hard, posture breaks down. And so one of the biggest issues that we have is there's tightness across the chest, there's tightness in the back of the neck, and it gets us into that position. And so what we want to do is we want to see if we can strengthen the front of the neck and strengthen the upper back there, strengthening through there to get us into that other spot. So anytime we can, we're trying to retract the chin, pull that chin back, and dropping shoulders down and back. All right? And if you do that, you will have some great, wonderful benefits there. The last exercise we're going to work on is an abdominal exercise. You know, before we get into it there, I want to explain where the abdominals are and how they all work there. And so the abdominals, they run along the ribs here, all along the bottom edge of the ribs, and they run down towards basically the bottom, where the hips come together. So they come where the pelvic bones come together and wrap around through there, and they go all the way around to the back. You know, they attach even on the spine there. And so all of that is part of the abdominals, part of the core. And so one of the things that can happen, you know, as we're doing stuff, is the legs start to affect the abs. And so there's a lot of exercises where the legs factor in. And so I'm going to show you a picture here of the psoas muscle. And so that comes, you can see it right in the picture there, it comes right along the spine, so it's back in there, right along the spine, it comes out from the spine and wraps down into the front of the leg. And so if I lift my leg up, that muscle is flexing. So if I lift this leg up, that muscle's flexing in there. Now, you can see how if it's attached to my spine, if I lift and I flex there, and I kick out even, that's a little bit harder, is it may want to make my back arch as I'm doing that. So it's pulling on there, so it's going to pull me into a bigger arch. And so on the other side of things is the hamstring. The hamstring is very tight, so if I try to bend forward here, it's going to try to kick me into a rounded back position. And when we're doing abs, this factors in, because, you know, people say like a plank is, you know, one of the gold standard kind of thing for abs nowadays. It's better than crunches, and it is. But there's still some pretty awful looking planks out there. You know, as us holding that position, it's still not looking good because people are either rounding too much while they're doing abs, or they're arching too much while they're doing abs. And really, we're trying to see if we can brace that middle of the road as we do those abdominal exercises. So a lot of times what we do is we use the floor here. And so I'm going to lay down right in here. And so I'm going to kick the legs up in the air, abs in tight. And so right in here, I already can feel, you know, my back wants to arch. So I got to use my abs to pull that lower back into the ground. If it's too hard for you, bend your knees a little more. So you can do this if you can. Get your neck set up well. All right. And so we hold this position, pulling in, bracing, pulling those lower abdominals in while you're doing this. Now, if you want to, you could try a bigger challenge. As you kick out, though, you'll notice your back wants to arch more. And so a lot of times, you know, if I ever have the opportunity to work with like a sports team or something, sometimes they do these little 6-inch holds, you know, where they do really low there. It does work the abs some, but a lot of times these little athletes don't have the ab strength, and so they start arching. So the hip flexor and the lower back are holding them. The abs are starting to check out there. And so don't go too low with the legs. Really, ideally, it's probably going to go more on the 45-degree angle. You can try to go lower, but you got to be very strong to go for that spot. All right, so we're pulling in, lowering out, abs in tight, and hold that and brace that. All right, so I usually talk and tell stories while people are doing this, all right, but I also remind them of their posture. So we're pulling in those abdominals, and then we relax. Now, we really want to try to pull in, drawing in the abs as we do that, because that does brace that core really, really well. So that pulling in really loads it up well. Our body has a built-in weightlifting belt. All right, these core muscles are our weightlifting belt, but a lot of times we've shut them down by not using them. All right, so we're going to try to really activate those. Now, on this next one, I usually remind people about the shoulder position. So we roll the shoulders back and slide them away from the ears. So I'm sliding away, ideally palm up on that, and then we try to add that in, and now you go, oh, but now my back wants to arch more. This is so difficult. Good. All right, so but now you're working that, you're squeezing in, shoulders are out, shoulders are down, so that chest is puffing up there. All right, and we're pulling those abs in, trying to fight against that desire of the lower back to arch. And as we do that, we start building up better and better posture, because if you are in the habit of slouching, your back is actually rounded like this. And when you try to straighten it, so if I try to lift my head up, I push on this part, the whole back here, I'm going to come a little closer, the whole back here a lot of times tips more. So this is around the rib cage right here. This is the lower back. If I tip more, the lower back arches more. What we want to try to do is we're trying to straighten that part of the ribs out. All right, so that way the back is more lined up. It's not so dramatic of an S shape. It doesn't need to be rock straight. It needs to have some natural curve, but usually it's too much. Usually people have way too much curve happening in their back. It actually makes them shorter. So sometimes people joke around, is a tall trainer, does he ever get taller? Some people actually do with a doctor after working with us for a while. They get measured and they actually are taller, because a lot of that is the back is so S-shaped that they're actually packing down. And as they actually straighten out, they gain height again. And so as we're doing our abs, we're doing our core, we're trying to be conscious of that as well, pulling, bracing as we are doing those exercises. All right, so when we do our exercises in our class, there's very little movement in the spine as we're doing those. There might be some slight movements, but not a whole lot, because our abs are mostly meant for bracing. Even if you take an action like throwing a ball, like a pitcher throwing a ball, people oftentimes think of that as a big twist in the core. It is not. It is actually more of a leg, hip flexibility thing. My core actually moves all the way through together as I do that action. And so it's not, there's not very few exercises that are really where we actually do our abs twisty or something like that. It's really mostly bracing the core, and that's a great exercise to be practicing that. Shoulders back and down, abs pulled in, challenge with the legs, find a good challenging spot, bracing and pulling, and practice that for a bit there. I'd like to be able to hold at least 30 seconds of a really good squeeze on that. And so that is the 4 exercises that we use to go over the basics. All right, and so the top thing that I want to really hammer home on this video, so it can get the most helpful, is those top 3 priorities. Is that posture is number 1, and then range of motion, and then extra resistance. All right, and so we got to get those 3 things going really well. So we got the posture, range of motion, and then make it tougher. All right, and so make sure you're nailing that posture as the number 1 priority. If you're unsure of that, you seek a professional who can help you out. Obviously, we do that. We would love to help you out with that, and sometimes it takes a while to build your skills up, to build up your ability to control your body position more. And so it can take a little while, but it is worth the investment. And so what we're doing during class, as people are in the program, is I'm floating around and I'm constantly helping them. If I see somebody up here, I'm going, oh, drop your shoulders, roll your shoulders back, pull your chin back, set this up, changing hand positions, changing foot positions to make sure that you're in the right position, you're getting the safest workout, but also the most effective. So again, this is a video I really hope you got all the way to the end of this. There's a lot of stuff in there. Some people may think it's boring, but I think it is so crucial for your success. So I would review it again. Probably one time through is not enough. There's a lot more in depth. I could go on some of those things, but I left it that way for right now. So So check that out, go through it some more, learn how to hold your body, and you're going to find a lot of great success with that. This is Jeremy the Tall Trainer saying, have fun, be safe.